And welcome back to Chicago Bulls Insider. Today, we're talking about the Chicago Bulls signing both of their rookies and why development is going to be key for the Chicago Bulls to take another step forward as a team. Next, we're going to be talking about the update around Josh Giddey and his contract. And so before we go ahead and we jump into all of that, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Matas Buzelis slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. So make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead. Let's jump into it. Let's start with the rookies here. And so if you've not got a chance to see this, the Chicago Bulls tweeted this out. And so it looks like that Noa Essengue and then also Lachlan, Olbrich have both been signed. And so let's start with Noa Essengue. And so it looks like that he got signed to a 4-year deal with a team option on the back of that. So it looks like the Bulls have a team option on the 27-28 season and the 28-29 season. The contract in total, 4 years, $25.3 million. If you want to go and take a little bit more of a look at this, you can go over to Spot Track, and this is what you will see here. And so just going back again, you see that the Bulls have the team option there at the back end of that. And so they take care of Noa Essengue. Then also, we did get a chance to see that Lachlan Olbrich has officially signed a 2-way deal with the Chicago Bulls. And so let's start there. And so I think that this is terrific that the Chicago Bulls have gone ahead and they've taken care of both of their rookies, especially since Summer League action officially starts for them on July the 11th. But keep in mind that players are going to have to go into a little bit of a training camp situation and start to gear up for that. And so I think that by taking care of both rookies, you now allow them to focus on the basketball aspect. And that's definitely what we want to see here as Chicago Bulls fans, because like the headline says, the real work begins to start. And you want to make sure that they're not having to worry about the business side and they can start to focus here on the basketball side of things. And so I love the fact that the front office has taken care of both of our rookies. And so that leads me to the next point now, and that is talking about the Chicago Bulls and just really the development piece here for the Chicago Bulls, because I think that this is going to be super important. And I think that when you look at the Summer League, this is really the start, not just for this year, but I think for the long term with the Chicago Bulls, because here's the deal with the Chicago Bulls and just looking at just the way that they're currently building and just maybe the outlook as far as the plan here, because, AK has come out and said that this is a team that wants to go out there and they want to get younger players with experience. And so when you do that, you're essentially shortening the timeline in a way because you're not going into a full rebuild there. But then also you got to think about it like this. The Bulls, they did go ahead and get younger, so we got to give them a lot of credit there. But in going younger, that means that these players are going to be players that you're going to have to depend on to take that next step, as you move on from these veterans and things like that. And so it's going to be interesting how the Bulls continue to play out just the build of this team and how things work, because, I think that as you're just going ahead and you're not taking multiple swings in the draft, meaning this, the Bulls have made trades where it's either been a player for player swap or they've gotten back control of their own first round picks. We're not seeing the team go out there and get multiple draft capital or multiple first round picks, multiple second round picks, whatever the case may be. And so this is a team that essentially when you're doing that, you're taking a bit of a patient approach with your draft picks, and you're really going to have to emphasize the development piece. And so when you look at just what is going to happen here starting at the Summer League, I think for a guy like Matas Buzelis, a player who we know is not going to suit up for the entirety of the Summer League, Mark Eversley had already said that, it's still going to be important for him to come out there and take another step forward, because I do think that Matas Buzelis is going to naturally take another step forward. And I think that the Summer League was really the start of things to come for Matas Buzelis. We talked about this several times after the post games. I would just talk about just how good he looked, talked about just how every announcer that called his game, they saw the it factor with Matas Buzelis. And the thing about Matas Buzelis is he ran with that. I think that even in a situation where Billy Donovan didn't play him as much and paced him along. And then we got to the point where Zach LaVine got moved and then he started to start, and it just looks like that he took off from there. I think that this is important for his development now because Matas can go out there. He has a full runway to really go out and just work on the things that he would like to work on. We want to probably see him get some more shots up and things like that. I'm anticipating that Billy Donovan is going to start to hopefully run some plays for him next season. So we're going to see him utilized a little bit more in that aspect. But I do want to see Matas Buzelis continue off of what he's shown already, which is that aggression to be better, which means that he's probably going to try to work on getting to the mid-range. He's probably going to work on, yes, getting to more of that three-point shot, the step throughs and things like that. And so I think that those things naturally really translate once the NBA games start and things like that. And when you look at a player like Noa Essengue, a player who we are hoping is going to really pair with Matas Buzelis and be a future piece here for the Chicago Bulls, it means that you're banking on the development aspect starting in NBA Summer League. I think that he's going to have to go out there with his runway, and hopefully he takes what Matas Buzelis did a year ago and he can start to put his best foot forward and hopefully step in the right direction to maybe getting some significant playing time in year one. Because, what you see as far as just some of the draft, profiles and just some of the experts and all these people are talking about the fact that development with him and just really having to be patient. And so we know he was the second youngest player in this last NBA draft, and he has a ton of talent. But I think for Essengue to start his development process and really to speed things up, I think that he's going to have to go out there, much like Matas Buzelis, and be aggressive and just show us just that dog mentality on the offense and the defensive end there, and just really show us how versatile he can be, because I think that that is going to be key for this team to turn things around much sooner than later, because you're really banking on the fact that you're going to eventually get these draft selections where you need to go. Because remember, the Bulls are not making multiple picks in the draft. And so that suggests that you have to take the patient and development route. And so the great thing here for these rookies is they get a chance to run the same system that they're going to see with Billy Donovan in these NBA games. And so you get a chance to see what they look like there, and you get a chance to work on the principles and things like that. But I think for Noa Essengue and these rookies and just anybody that is going to be an impact for the Chicago Bulls, it's about them taking that step forward. So development is going to be critical along with patience for this team. And so let's see how this works out, in the grand scheme of things, because I definitely think that the Bulls cannot afford to really skip any steps. And so, you're already going out, you're getting the younger players that have had some experience, but now you have really seriously got to take the development aspect very serious. And that's starting with, yes, our rookies. And then also too, with a player that showed us some signs in year one in Matas Buzelis, that development must continue. And so next, I wanted to go ahead and I wanted to jump into the Josh Giddey contract update. And so really we have two contract updates around him. And so let's go ahead and start with the first. And so if you want to read about this, you can go over to sportsillustrated.com. And within this is going to take you to a tweet from Joe Cowley. And this is what Joe Cowley had to say, if you guys want to check this out on his Twitter page there. So it says that the Bulls and Josh Giddey are having good dialogue per a source, but the Giddey camp is dug in on the Suggs contract, $30 million per year. Let the posturing continue. And so, just quickly with that, I think that it's good to see that there's good dialogue. That's number one. And so I'm glad to see that that's going on. I think that this is something where, the Bulls are probably waiting to see, what's going to happen with the market, and then also trying to come to terms probably with years and numbers, I'm guessing here. So let's see what happens and what ultimately the contract looks like. I think it's interesting, that he's still looking for what Jalen Suggs got, and understandably so. Jalen Suggs, if you're not familiar with that situation, Jalen Suggs got the deal for $150 million, and that is going to be the $30 million per, and that's for 5 years. It is on a descending scale, and so by the end of the contract, I think $26 million by 29-30 is what he's looking at. And so let's see what happens if Josh Giddey does get to that number, if the Bulls in fact get to that. And next, another contract update, so to speak, if you want to call it an update. And so if you want to go check this out, you can go over, I believe, to Bobby Marks. I guess it's his little podcast that he does with ESPN. And he was talking briefly about Josh Giddey and the contract situation. And it starts at about 4 minutes and 44 seconds there. And within his free agency breakdown, he just says that there's really only been 5 players in the last 10 years that has played on the qualifying offer. And he just talks about like that if you do play on the qualifying offer, you do have the chance to veto all trades, essentially. And so that means that if he does come back on his $11 million qualifying offer, if the Bulls were to try to trade him, then he can veto those trades. And then also, too, he talks about that if you do decide to be traded on that qualifying offer, you would lose your birds right, which that essentially allows a team to exceed the salary cap to sign you. And so he highlights those things. And then he jokingly says at the 540 mark that the Bulls and Josh Giddey are a Gulf of Mexico apart on figuring out a contract. And so he's jokingly saying that. And so either way, look, I think that they're positive, in the sense that there's talks that are happening. And I just think that the bottom line is we just have to wait and see what is going to happen. I do think that the Chicago Bulls do want Josh Giddey back. I think that Josh Giddey wants to come back. And I think he's excited to get back, especially with how things finished last season. And I think that it's going to be important for the Chicago Bulls as far as investing and how they continue to build out their team and really set up this new offensive style and just really the things that they're going to need to put around these players defensively. It's all going to really get to the point where you're going to need to get some continuity. And so that means that if you believe, Josh Giddey is your franchise point guard, which I do believe so, then they're going to go ahead and bring him back. And so with that being said, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking about these Josh Giddey contract updates here. And then also, too, what are you guys thinking about the Bulls taking care of business here with both rookies? Once again, Lachlan, Olbrich, and then Noa Essengue both being taken care of. And then next, let me know what you guys are thinking as far as just the development piece for the Chicago Bulls and how important that is going to be for this team. Because, again, I think that the Bulls are banking on development and patience here to turn this thing around. And that means that you have got to take this seriously. And I'm just wondering, what happens, because if Noa Essengue plays very well during the summer league, much like Matas Buzelis, I want to see, does he get a chance to get himself some real minutes with the Chicago Bulls? Because I would love to see that. And I think that if he were able to do that, I think that certainly things could be trending in the right direction sooner rather than later here. So we'll see what happens with the Chicago Bulls. Hopefully they can take a step forward and get out of the play-in situation. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking. And as we always say, look, go Bulls. And I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.